Hey everyone, it's Simon Spiraled. Welcome back to some more custom magic. Today we're doing something a little different. We've got another Revolution custom standard match about to happen here in round 2 of Grand Prix Skophos. I'm just going to let our players know that we're all ready. PTM was very kind and said, hey, there's a match coming on today. Are you available? And I was very excited to get a chance to spectate and commentate this match. Both players' decks are really interesting. So PTM here is on top with a nice little aggressive, sort of like a heroic type deck where you're going to be casting a lot of spells that target some of your own creatures. And on the bottom here, Itai is on a green-white +1/+1 counter, or, well, I guess just counters type of plan. So you know the drill. We're mousing over a few cards. You'll recognize a few from MSCM as well. Cards like Heart of the Glade were reprinted from the format here into Revolution Custom Standard. We've got Sligh Regrafter, which puts counters on creatures. And then, well, whenever a creature you control dies, you get to move a counter from it to somewhere else, making sure that your counters are sticky. A lot of lands, though, in this opening hand, but turn 1 play here with Thorngrafter, which can enter with a variety of counters and then grow and move counters around. Over on PTM side, we've got these lovely mountains here. We've got a Blazing Hooligan, a 1/1 that whenever you amp it up, target creature can't block this turn, and you can amp it up in one of two ways. You can either cast your second spell each turn, or attack with 3 or more creatures, and I believe you can do both. So if you manage all 2, you can make sure that 2 creatures can't block this turn. So yeah, Thorngrafter came in. It's got a +1/+1 counter, and we've picked Vigilance, it seems. Makes sense. You'll be able to attack with it and then use the activated ability, especially since this hand is just so full of lands. You're going to have the mana to spare for a little bit. We've got cards like Punishment from Nyx, which is a shock that has an upside if you control 3 or more enchantments. Just damage dealt by your sources can't be prevented. Ephemia of the Horse has a lot of text, but essentially it's a 1/1 haste with ward. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you'll get a 1/1 human creature token if it's the first time. Second time, it gives your board +1/+0 and gains haste. And then if it's the third time, creatures you control gain menace until end of turn. So it does a lot for a 1-drop, which is kind of the name of the game here for this deck. Rathamar Forge Runner is also a 1/1 menace, and your creatures get +1/+0 if ever you've cast a spell that targeted it this turn. It doesn't stack, but it's, fantastic. And speaking of the spells that we'll be throwing at our creatures, we've got cards like Momentous Charge here. You can only cast it during your turn, but it gives a creature +2/+0 in haste, and if it was already attacking, instead it gets +2/+0 in trample, and it's got flashback 1 in a red, so you can conceivably do both in a single turn. So let's see what gets runs out. We've got the Forerunner here as our Menace 1/1, as I said, and we're going to follow it up with a Momentous Charge. So because we've cast our second spell each turn, Thorngrafter will not be able to block. Momentous Charge is going to give +2/+0 and haste here, and then because we've targeted Rathamar, our creatures will get +1/+0 since we've cast a spell this turn. So we're going to clock in for 6 damage, which cannot be blocked. Nice chunk here. All right, moving on to the next player's turn. Let's see if we draw something else than a land. One of the great eternal life lessons of, my gosh, of Magic is there's always the risk of flood or, not having the mana that you need. And yeah, just we're like looking down at 6 lands here. Thorngrafter is a 1/1 vigilance, so might as well chip in. Regrafter would put another counter on it. But if we played out the 2-drop, okay. So interestingly enough, oh, whoops. We're gonna have to fix that power toughness. It should be a 2/2. Okay, there we go. It's now fixed. All right, so yeah, if you were putting the counter on Regrafter, you could wait. Otherwise, we could have done it pre-combat to get the extra point of damage in. The move a counter from Thorngrafter to another creature you control is quite fun. I mean, obviously these cards work well together, and it's really funny because they're not from the same set. It just happens that Duelists and Cliques both have a +1/+1 counter theme sort of in the same colors. I think it's green, white, blue, and I definitely know it's green and probably white. I would have to double check though. But yeah, they got similar mechanics, so they blend very well together in this deck. Duplicate Ephemia, probably not super great, but don't forget that Momentous Charge can be cast from the graveyard. We didn't draw a third land, which would let us do a 1 and then a 2, but considering the fact that we are able to double cast, so for example, we could do Punishment from Nyx, taking out maybe the Thorn Grafter, because if you take out Silliman, the counter then goes here, but you know, you can cast one spell, yeah, with Ephemia, and then a second spell, Punishment, that would be your 2 spells, so you would amp it up, and then actually, we don't have a way of giving haste, but okay, Punishment from Nyx, sure. Hitting the Regrafter, the counter's going to go here, so it's going to go up to a 2/2, but anyway, it doesn't block this turn, so we'll be able to get at least 2 points of damage in, if that's the plan. Or 3, sorry. And yeah, technically now it double can't block. I forgot Ephemia also had haste. So chipping in for 3. PTM doesn't know that Itai obviously is just holding a hand of land. Oh my gosh, it just keeps going. But yeah. Just being able to cast, just the fact that now that we have 3 creatures means that Thorn Grafter will never be able to block. This is a Vigilance. What we can start doing though is, you know, growing it, right? Oh, interesting. Why did we not attack? It's got Vigilance. Okay, there we go. Okay, I was concerned for a second. It's like, hey, we've got a went too far there. Yeah. So attack. In response, you could always pay 1 and a tap to put an extra counter on it. Oh, okay. No, we're not doing that. Okay. Because that ability is can be done at instant speed, so we could be growing it to a 3/3. But again, it won't matter for the blocks at least, but it will matter for the damage. Yeah, I mean, we've got an Ephemia here, but we're not likely to play it since we already just are able to tap down, or not tap down, but, you know, force the can't block. What we do have, though, is in the graveyard, is we have that Momentous Charge, which can give +2/+0 and trample. And if you target Ephemia, you get a human. If you give Rathamar, it'll give +1 to everything else. So you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is almost lethal. You maybe want to hold that off for a turn where you can like capitalize and like confirm the kill, which should be next attack technically. Yeah, so 8. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Oh, nope, we're doing it now. Okay. So that's going to be an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage here, putting Itai at 3. All right, Itai revealed the hand. So PTM can see what Itai was working with, which unfortunately was very little. It's, you know, very hard to put up much of a fight when you're packing, you know, just so many lands. Our players are going to move to sideboarding, which means that we're going to move to checking out their sideboards. Isn't that great? So we're over here in GP Skophos here. Let's go find the match. It's all the way over here. So PTM, what do we got here? Flawn the system, cast spells. Nope, that doesn't seem correct. I think Braze might come in. If the opponent can grow some of their stuff to like high enough, you want to be able to hit them for more than just 2 damage. Momentous Charge is doing a lot of work, especially on the amps. Condemnation probably coming in here. Players can't gain life, so in Itai's deck, there's actually quite a bit of life gain. In I think there's one that teaches lifelink. This stuff tends to stick around, so it definitely makes sense to stop that from happening because the life gain might be pretty relevant. What else we got? Soul Guide Lantern? Probably not. I don't see any reason to put that in. Over here, though, there it is, Charity Match. Teach a creature lifelink and then it fights. It's really good here, especially at an instant, because you can do it in response to them casting a spell and before an ability resolves. Let them eat cake can exile pretty much everything that's small. Is this the one that makes a bunch of 1/1s? I mean, it's not horrible being able to have a wider board. And then they all die into more cards. I could see that being relevant. Yeah, but PTM was mentioning that like the main board technically is already really stacked against PTM's deck, so there was kind of like a lucky game one here where there's just a lot of lands. So PTM definitely has the opportunity with 2 more games to sort of take the win, so to speak. What we're going to do is, while they're still sideboarding, actually, let's give a better look at their entire deck list. So again, feel free to pause at any card that you want to look at. So Thorngrafter, Melon, Defense Attorney, an Enlightened Naturalist, Genotype Splicer, Goletra, I'm assuming it's pronounced Goletra's Disciple, Overbearing Researcher, which gives Ward, which is also relevant, Regrafter here, Xeno Planner Engineer, Club Promoter, Jen's Slopeskidder, Unveil the Menagerie, and then a bunch of lands that we've actually seen most of in the hand. A lot of taps, and Redeveloped Cityscape, which is probably one of my favorite lands now in the Revolution format. So players seem to be ready. We'll get a better chance at PTM's deck if the game goes the same way. So Itai's keeping 7. We've got 1, 2, and we are seeing the Let Them Eat Cake and the Charity Match that we had imagined would come in. All we have to do, though, is find a white source, because Lush Oasis and a basic forest is not it, but it will allow us to start playing out Goletra's Disciple. Over on PTM side, just a single mountain, but when you've got, Jorgen, Ephemia, Punishment, Hooligan, Reply to the Call, and Rock On all just cost 1, and you're probably likely to draw maybe at least 1 more mountain in the next couple of turns. Yeah, it's really all you need. Okay, are we starting off with Hooligan? Because I really like these Hooligan starts. Sparks of a Revolution is a pretty cool policy. It creates a 1/1 soldier with haste. Then you have to fulfill the conditions, which is 3 or more sources you control dealt damage, or a source you control dealt 3 or more damage. And then it's only once a turn, so you can't mark both in a single turn. And then it flips into Freedom, which is just whenever you attack, you get an extra 1/1. So I kind of flickered off there. Let's keep that. Whenever you attack, you get a 1/1 colorless soldier creature token that's tapped and attacking. So for a 1-drop card, not bad. I didn't find a second land. That would have been nice to find, because obviously Thorngrafter coming in with the counter, and then Goletra's Disciple picking a counter. What is it? It's whenever it enters or attacks, right? Choose a counter permanent you control, and you can put a counter of that kind on a permanent you control if it doesn't have a counter on it. So we've picked up the +1/+1. So, 3/2 flying for 2 is pretty nice. And I'm assuming we'll be able to pick up the Vigilance. So there's one thing here. I was wondering why we didn't pick Vigilance, because then when we would attack, we wouldn't tap, and we could pick up the +1/+1 counter. But just something I was thinking of. So Thrice Blessed Boon is very interesting. You can tap untap legendary creatures you control instead of paying the spell's mana cost, so we can just tap Ephemia to get it, and it gives the creature +1/+0 and Menace. So Ephemia is now a 2/1 Menace, and because we targeted, we also now get a 1/1 human. So board's already at 3, which means next turn Hooligan's going to tap stuff down. We'll see if we draw a white source. We did not. My gosh, now it's the opposite. We're not finding lands on both sides here. So because it attacks, then you choose the counter. It'll already be tapped. So picking up the Vigilance won't matter here. But let's see what we got. Another Disciple. Yeah, no surprise here. I mean, this is a really just a good creature, and the fact that, it flies. What's going on here? Whenever... Oh, wait. When it enters, choose it. Oh, okay, never mind. It's on target permanent you control. Very cool. Okay, so we're growing this one. I mean, okay. Yeah, it worked out in the end. We're fine. So because we had the other one in hand, we were able. That way we were at 2 toughness, which I guess could matter for. Is there anything that just deals 1 point of damage? Doesn't matter too much. if we can get a Thorn Grafter down and then give some other counters, that's always fun. But like this is actually going to be pretty solid now, and they're flyers naturally. So okay, so here's where it's really cool. The more emblazoned hooligans you have out, the better, because you can just um, keep your opponent's multiple creatures, making sure they can't block. I'm wondering if there was a world. No, you would have lost too much there. You really want to get your third hooligan or get your punishment from Nyx here and take out maybe Thorngrafter. But here's the white source. Okay, so here's where the scales definitely are going to start tipping in Itai's favor. The fact that we now have access to Charity Match means that we'll be able to teach one of these disciples lifelink, it'll kill something, and then we can teach the other one lifelink, and then we're gaining a lot of life. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is Charity Match firing off here. We could also see Genotype Splicer. It teaches lifelink, right? But Match is nice in that it removes something. Oh, so Ward Trigger. It doesn't already have lifelink, so we're gonna put a life. Hold on. Okay. It's a 2-1 fighting your 3-2 though. You'll lose the disciple. Yep. We could have moved the counter from Thorn. I mean, obviously it would kill Thorngrafter, but we could have moved the excess counter here. Ooh, that's actually not great because now you've only got 2 creatures. Okay, we're playing out the Thorngrafter. We're back up to 3. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a little rough. I mean, yeah, you could have given up your Thorngrafter to put a counter to make your disciple a 4/3. Then you would use Charity Match, kills, you're still fine. You would have gained a bunch of life. And then you would have taught your other disciple. That's all right. A lot of moving pieces, and especially with the counters. The lack of double white obviously means we're only casting one of these next turn. I would imagine Splicer to get lifelink back up, maybe. Vigilance is also not irrelevant. Okay, this is going to attack. It's going to pick up Vigilance, it looks like. But again, because it's already tapped, doesn't matter on this turn. I would imagine that this punishment from Nyx goes after this before it can start growing with Thorngrafters. And now that there's a double red, makes a huge difference. So, Jorgen's really sick. Punishment from Nyx and reply to the call. Rock on. Yeah. Sparks. Sparks wouldn't even be horrible here because you'd get your 1/1 colorless. You've got 2 hooligans. You make everything tap, and then you can fulfill the 3 or more sources condition. But that's right. If we're seeing Jorgen here, that makes a lot of sense. The fact that he can just push a lot of damage through. Punishment from Nyx, I'm assuming, is going after the Disciple. And then the hooligans say, hey, we're just going to make sure that nothing here can block. And then, are we attacking for 3? Yes, we are. Okay. Obviously, Itai's not out of it. Lost the biggest chance at pushing through a lot of evasive lifelink, and getting to that 3 toughness would have been really relevant, considering the fact that the main damage point here is from punishment from Nyx is 2. Unless there's Braze that got brought in, of course. We're 1 mana short for a Gen Slope Skidder, but we can run out like Genotype Splicer here. Let Them Eat Cake is actually really good. But no, that is a leaves the battlefield. Never mind. Jorgen would still deal the damage, but there's Splicer. Beginning of combat on your turn, you get to pay X. When you do, you choose up to X, and they have to have different targets. So you can teach Flying, Lifelink, Vigilance. So the important thing about Teach is if you pick one that they already have, you start growing them by +1/+1 counters instead. So I'm assuming we're going to give... is this going to be a Lifelink, or is this going to be Vigilance to... Yeah, okay, we're going up to 2 toughness. Alrighty. In the future, though, like next turn, we could just go pay the 3 and then spread that all around. So vigilance, lifelink, flying, good stuff. Oh, that's risky. Oh, that only hits opponents or planeswalkers? Okay, so at least you wouldn't trade here. There's Thrice Blessed Boon. So obviously you could tap Jorgen to cast that for free. Both players are still in this. Let Them Eat Cake is going to be like fantastic. It hits pretty much everything in PTM's deck, and yeah, it gives them a food. But you're like, okay, you're very okay with that. And Slope Skitter, if it comes out, it's going to be really good because 3/3 haste, counter on a target creature, and then whenever a land enters, target another one. So there's Sparks. All right. So the important thing is if we can do a double casting spells each turn now, we'll be able to double trigger the Amp It Up on the 2 Emblazoned Hooligan, so really force no blocks. So here's the Colorless Soldier, and it gains haste. All right. So there we go. All right. Maybe wanting... Okay, well, are we casting our second spell right now? Yeah, okay. So rock on. Going to give Jorgen +1/+0 and first strike here. And now these two can't block again. So all the damage is going to get pushed through. And it's +1/+0 for strike, but an additional +2/+0 for each time you've amped it up this turn. And we've amped up twice. So 6. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once a turn as a sorcery, mark a condition as complete. Oh, okay, I see. We're using 2 to mark that condition 2 was done. Okay. Yeah, definitely the harder one of the 2 to get, so it's important to do that one now. Okay, well, there's another Let Them Eat Cake. Do you go after the... No? Okay. So we're moving to combat. We're going to pay 2. We're going to teach some life lessons here to these Thorn Grafters. Okay, so what are we picking? So lifelink on this one, and it's not going to be trample, so it's either going to be flying or vigilance. Vigilance? Okay. Makes sense. They both have vigilance, so you can just swing in. That's 3 points of damage. You gain 2 off of this Thorn Grafter. And it's a sorcery speed Let Them Eat Cake, so I'm pretty sure you're using it, and I imagine you want to use it on Jorgen or one of the hooligans. Yeah. It's really risky to let Jorgen stick around, I get it. So, takes 1 damage from that. Food token here. So the Emblazoned Hooligans are what's making it really difficult for you to block. So like I would understand if you took 1 out just to guarantee that you have a blocker on some turns, but there's a third one. There's a third hooligan. Is this going to be just it? Let's see. You cast... Just having it on the field means that your opponent's not blocking. So you've got your 1, your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... We're close. Draw a card. We didn't find a... And this will only flip after the combat phase, so... The fact that everything on the opponent's side of the field has like 1 toughness means like a 1 damage sweeper would have been very nice. I wonder if... Does REV have one of those? We'll see after the match. I'm actually quite curious. So there's Hooligan. You know, one of those like white deals a damage to each creature the opponent controls kind of deal. There's Reply to the Call. I'm going to give haste to the Hooligan that just entered. Everything gets no longer able to block to. And then +1/+0 on this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draws a card. Draws a mountain. Oh, that's really good, actually, here. And I'm glad we did this in the main phase, because we can actually play that mountain. We could push some more damage through if we needed to. We can also hold on to it for the next turn to make sure we get a double spell. We're going to fulfill the Sparks thing. The one issue you got to think of is if you're not killing your opponent this turn. Okay. This one has +1/+0 in Menace now. If you're not killing your opponent this turn, do you hold anything back? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but both of these can grow, right? Oh, no, we're going all in. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oof. That triggers, so that's the second condition here, because it's as a sorcery, yeah. PTM is at 8, and this is haste, right? But of course you need the mana to do the genotype. You can target itself. Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did we find a solution? Let's see. Could be missing one. So you can give... Yeah, the fourth land would have been the win, right? Obviously, because of the haste here, but... Hooligan doing a lot of work. Very impressed with this card. And obviously super gross with Rock On. I'm surprised that card is 1 mana. That seems super gross and likely not okay. I mean, obviously the first one, +3/+0 for 1 is totally fine. Like, that's within the... Because, we've seen giant growths. But being able to go up to 5 for 1 mana is whoa. I wonder if it's your second spell, does that count as amping it up? I would have to ask. If yes, then it's really easy to turn on here. So Itai's got to think. I don't doubt that. I'm also looking here at what the solution could be. Because teaching Vigilance, teaching Lifelink, you can go to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's finding that last piece, and it's not going to be in... Because you have no blockers. What about Lifelink? If you give Lifelink, we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Okay, we're going with Let Them Eat Cake. We're getting rid of the 2/1 here. Okay. By doing that, though, you can run out your Thorngrafter to have a 4th blocker, which means you'll be able to block something. You got your Lifelink here on your Thorngrafter. Okay. Are we giving Lifelink for a 3rd life? Yeah, okay. Okay, I kind of like this line here. These are both Vigilance, so another 3 damage goes in. We earn 3 life, we go back up to 5. On board, your opponent has 5 because of the freedom, which is still a kill, but the fact that you can drop this Thorngrafter means you actually have at least a 1 blocker, unless your opponent can double cast. And I believe there are no... There's not the flashback one in the graveyard right now, so unless we top deck that. Nice close game, honestly, here. All right, Thorngrafter went for Vigilance. Makes sense. Forerunner, not a way to give it haste this turn, right? Bit of a pickle. Your opponent's going to have... You would have needed like a second spell. I mean, what you can always do is cash in a food at least to go back up to 8. Oh, that was a good play here. Just a little bit of incidental lifelink lifelink was weren't able to finish off the opponent, but are able to float just enough. It depended on what we drew, right? If we had drawn like a damage spell, which is punishment, like that could have done something. The flashback one would have won. But yeah, if we're pushing it down, the problem is you definitely don't want to let the lifelinkers block, right? So we're attacking. Freedom triggers. We get our 5th. I imagine you make everything but the genotype splicer able to block, right? Because that's the one that's going to keep growing the board in like dangerous ways. There's one more block here. I mean, that's what I think. I think you force genotype to have to block because you're threatening here with 5 damage. I mean, at the same time, like, yeah, these can move counters to other creatures and they can grow, but this one's going to keep teaching, so that's going to be, yeah, that's what I would have done as well. Okay. So those trade off. Now, I think you go up to, obviously you can do it at instant speed, but you're at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have vigilance. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Because counter, counter, counter. Obviously, it's the Gen Slope Skitter that wins the game if we find our 4th land here. Do we control a forest, the plains, and an island? Oh, we do. There's the 4th land. There's Gen Slope Skitter coming in for 3 extra points of damage and an extra counter. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 8. Fantastic. Are we attacking with gens? Are we not attacking with gens? Oh, we're not attacking with gens. Okay. I guess holding up the Forerunner makes it seem like we've got that removal. Didn't want to go all in. Wow. Okay, we're still in this. PTM goes up to 8, is taking 5 damage here, so back down again. But the lifelink on these two mean that Itai is back up to 5. Oh, this is getting exciting. Oh, well, okay. Punishment from Nyx is big here. I think that's the win because you play out the Forerunner. That's your first spell. Punishment from Nyx will be your second, so double can't block and then double can't block, right? Oh, it's so. Oh darn! If we attack with gens, that was the kill. And then here we go for. Hold up, we're still in attack. And then punishment from Nyx, 2 damage to the face. Your 2 hooligans trigger again. Nothing can block this turn, and we're just swinging in for 5 damage. And yeah, good. I mean, obviously, I don't know if the point was for the bluff here by holding up the Rathamar, but the fact that it was in the hand meant your opponent could have been worried about the a damage, taking 2 damage off, and then your board was tapped out, which I totally understand. But the fact that, that attack would have been lethal, wow, that was really big. Oh, yeah, it's a fight, it's not a bite. I did want to check really like closely. I want to see if 1 damage, does white have it? Doesn't look like it. Interesting. 1 damage, a lot of 1 damage things, but I'm not seeing, obviously in red white. Storming the Palace is very pretty. Obviously, sorry, none of you can see at all what I'm talking about. Each opponent, that's not it. Okay, there just really isn't a 1 damage like creature sweep, it looks like. Very interesting stuff. Well, hey. Oh, yeah. Well, there it is. That's the one of the last matches here for round 2. Both players still moving on here to round 3 of GP Skophos. So you can continue to watch them and follow their story over the next little bit of the month. This video will be up shortly. So yeah, hope you've had a good time. And there's going to be some more content later today. I believe we have an MSCM match at noon. So stay tuned and hope you've enjoyed. Catch you next time.